Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today on how to use New Zealand story resources and in particular perception research to help you market New Zealand wine to the world. My name is Frauke and I work on the engagement side in the New Zealand Story team, and I'm also your host for today. Thank you so much for keeping me going during lockdown. This is a very watered down wine, it's actually just water. But I would like to thank Charlotte for inviting New Zealand Story to tell you all a bit more about what we do. So I'm going to cover who New Zealand Story is, what we do, and most importantly, how you can benefit from it. I'm handing over to Sarah in about 10 minutes, and she will talk to you about how carrying the FernMark can play in your favor when exporting wine. After I've done all of that, so as I said, in about 10 minutes, I'm looking forward to introducing Alex Jones from One Picture to you, who's going to tell you more about perception research. This type of research is about understanding how we here in New Zealand are seen by our export markets and what this means to you when you market New Zealand wine around the world. So let's start. Who is New Zealand Story? We are the country's nation brand group and perception agency. And whilst we're funded by 6 government agencies, we're quite separate and independent to them. So what do we do? First up, you need to know that New Zealand Story has been around for more than 5 years. So our existence is not a response to the global pandemic. New Zealand Story has been set up to tell a broader story of New Zealand and enable both private sector and government to tell a story beyond tourism and beyond natural beauty. Over the last 15 years, New Zealand's 100% pure tourism campaign has attracted visitors to our shores and left them with an impression that we are a beautiful place with mountains, clean water and sheep. But unfortunately, this did little for our reputation as a business-savvy nation. And the private sector in New Zealand was agitating for an updated and broader story. So that story was necessary to help build out from the known to showcase the lesser known and introduce the unknown. And we knew we needed to back it up with evidence too, because the world is full of fake news and cynical consumers who are bombarded daily with news from different countries. So we have always had a view of whatever we do, it should leave the world a better place. And we would like to think that as a country, we could achieve this, not only with the tourism sector, but also with the food and beverage, the fiber, and the tech sector, just to name a few. So, for example, for our food and fiber sector, we have a vision that is fit for the world. So what we've created is a narrative, a story that each person can present in their own words. Our goal has been to provide a central set of values, a theme, that each person can adapt to suit their circumstances. And there has never been a better time for this narrative for our country. It's a real reimagining time for New Zealand where we can shine with our values on the world stage. And here are our country's values. Interestingly, those words are not made up by us, by New Zealand Story. They're words that resonate globally and values that we as a country are recognized for in our key export markets. We incorporate these values in everything we produce, content-wise, because we know that they are both recognized as well as positive perception drivers. And it's really in a crisis such as COVID or the Christchurch mosque attack, where our core country values are tested to the core. And kaitiaki, the care for our people and our planet, our Kiwi ingenuity and the value of integrity, to do what we're asked to do and what we promise to do, they have stood extremely firm in these times. So where does all of this lead to, and what do we actually do to support you wine growers and exporters of delectable New Zealand wines. How can you benefit from our work? So I'm going to give you a very brief overview of what you will find in our toolkit, but to really benefit, I will ask you to go to our website and sign up to the toolkit after this webinar. We've even created a little QR code for you, so you can just go straight to the toolkit by taking a photo of it. I'm going to show that again at the end for you. Here's an overview of the toolkit. A real box of different resources for you to download for free and update your story as one from New Zealand. Currently, we have about 3,000 downloads a month and a total of now over 12,000 registered users on our website. So under Inside Stories, you will find industry-specific introductions to New Zealand. These are short 1 or 3 minute videos where we've asked local and international talent to talk about a particular strength of New Zealand. There is one to attract investment, another one talks to our Kiwi ingenuity, others are export market specific, and this one here talks to food and beverage. And whilst there's a lot of talk about food, listen out for the wine section too. We're currently working with NZTE on a big F&B campaign to boost global demand for New Zealand food and beverages. So expect to see regular updates in this space on our toolkit. So I'm going to show you this 3-minute video. I hope it's not lagging for you. I've optimized the screen as much as I can, but sometimes over Zoom technology, it can be a bit patchy.
New Zealand's gift to the world is creativity. We're in demand around the world for our food and our beverages.
Their food and wine is just amazing.
Miss the food. Can't beat it.
At Logan Brown, half our guests would be internationals. They're always just amazed about the flavour profile of our food.
Our hospitality is amazing. For Māori, the most important thing is to host people, to look after people. It's the art and the gifts of manaakitanga.
New Zealand is a nirvana for plants and animals. It's the lack of cultivation and the cooling effect of our oceans.
High UV light, humidity, sunshine hours, and young fertile soil.
Which makes our food and beverage taste really unique.
And we have a collective responsibility to our future generations. A word in Māori we call kaitiakitanga.
What literally has the word food in the title, kai. It's about being the caregivers of that food, really. You can produce world-class produce while still looking after the environment.
We're really lucky in New Zealand because we've got these beautiful waters around us.
There are systems in place that ensures the ocean, it ensures ongoing supply.
We know that it's sustainable, and that's very important to me as a chef because then I can serve it with confidence.
We're one of the few countries in the world that still has a GMO-free food chain.
It's the most pristine place on earth.
From the source to the plate, it's not a big step for us.
We give the crops a lot of loving care and we go straight from the ground to the market.
Yeah, you can taste the freshness.
The product that you're eating is like right around you.
In New Zealand, we're really focused on places where the food comes from. All these things play a part in the story and on the dish itself.
There is the best milk in the world, best lamb in the world, and best honey I've ever tried in my life.
Cooking is as simple as how good the ingredient is. Whether it's our lamb, which is the highest omega lamb in the world, the best green-lip mussels or cloudy bay clams, it is flavour like you wouldn't believe.
New Zealand embraces and celebrates innovation, whether it be food, but also wines that stand up to the best in the world. Historically, we've just done things that other countries haven't done before.
We do punch above our weight internationally, and we've shown that. The world loves our wine.
With Sauvignon Blanc, they hit, as we Americans would say, a home run. It's something that New Zealand, probably in all fairness, still does best.
We've got a very new cuisine, we've got pride, we've got heritage, we've got beautiful ingredients, and I think that's our biggest draw card.
It's modern, it's cutting edge, and it's no wonder they export it to every corner of the planet.
New Zealand is the image of quality.
That's what you hear. We love New Zealand food, and you love it because we care about it, and that's what makes our food better than anyone else's.
And they make pretty good beer, too.
So I hope that transmitted okay. Sorry for the slide hiccup. I was actually trying to type a question into the chat room, which I encourage you to use if you have questions. It's just at the bottom of your screen. So here is an example of what B-roll footage looks like. B-roll footage is the professional term for a stretch of video material. It's royalty free and can be used by you to create your own story. A little funny story about this. Our team shot a story about the Kiwi icon of a pie, a little social story last year. And when our team talked to the pie company about B-roll footage, they automatically assumed that we were talking about video of beef roll, so sausage roll footage. So B-roll has nothing to do with sausage rolls. It's just a stretch of video footage that you can use and download to enhance your marketing material. And there is quite a few assets under the wine category in our toolkit. So I invite you to have a really good look at that. Oops, that was an important one. Go back. We know that it's important to underpin stories with evidence. So I've extracted here some examples of rankings from our toolkit that support your wine industry. Evidence that underpins our values and demonstrate our position in the world. So all of these infographics and images are a great way to capture attention, create advocacy and shareability via social channels or in pitch presentations as country credentials. So these are regularly updated to reflect the latest figures. These should be the latest figures from last month's report from you. And that last infographic here is in Mandarin. And that's just as an example that we can supply those infographics to you in the languages needed. So if you are targeting a specific export market, you can ask us to translate those infographics for you. When we talk about research, it's usually perception research. And I'm going to leave this topic to Alex from One Picture. One Picture are our partners in crime when it comes to extracting country-specific insights for us to create resources for you to use. But before I hand over to Alex, let me introduce Sarah Morgan from our team to you, who has been growing the FernMark license program for over 3 years now. She's been asked to keep the vast topic of country of origin and traceability to an absolute minimum today, and would tell you why we think the FernMark is a really, really useful trademark to display on your wine bottles. Over to Sarah. Are you there, Sarah?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Frauke, and kia ora tātou. One of the core services that New Zealand Story offers is the FernMark license program. This is the ability to carry our trademark Silver Fern together with your unique license number on packaging, as shown here in the picture above the barcode. Now, I appreciate real estate is always limited on labels, and especially within wine. So it's not something it's just limited to packaging. You can also carry it in your business cards, marketing collateral, trade shows, which many of our licensees do. But it's all about promoting your country of your product's country of origin, both to consumers and buyers offshore. Now, it's interesting, many labels don't even say or have anything to say they're from New Zealand. So this is a simple way to do just that. So just for a couple of minutes, I've given my limitations. I'm keen to share with you the benefits of the program, which is available to all New Zealand exporters. And I'll just give you a bit of background. New Zealand has long been ranked amongst the first of 190 economies for ease of doing business, and is ranked highly for low corruption, peacefulness, sustainability. Add this to our new ranking as a world leader for government COVID-19 communication, and it's no surprise that New Zealand is one of the most globally trusted country brands. The knock-on effect is that New Zealand is being perceived as trusted and safe country to do business with, and these are key purchasing drivers for global consumers when looking to buy products: trust and safety. And interesting, during lockdown, we still carried on having applications for the program. So the trademark Silver Fern is a visual representation of everything that's good about New Zealand. The FernMark license, therefore, offers a clear visual stamp of provenance and trust. It enables businesses and consumers to authenticate a product's country of origin and gives consumers the chance to verify your product or service via a unique license number that represents your brand. Next slide, please, Frauke. If you're looking to develop new distribution channels, new investors, new DIGO partners, and reach new consumers, building trust is paramount to your export success. When you can meet face to face, trust is easy to build. But when distance, culture, language come into play, and when you're competing with so many other wine countries and businesses and brands, you need all the help you can get to get yourself noticed and present yourself as a credible business, one that can be trusted. And interestingly enough, this year, established brands domestically such as Whittaker's, Rod & Gun, Silverfern Farms have all joined the program as a way to build trust and credibility in new offshore markets. As well as trust, building credibility is another key challenge. I could have the next slide, please, Frauke. Another key benefit of carrying the FernMark, it is the same trademark used by our international facing government departments, MFAT, NZTE, Education, Tourism, all of whom are collectively building our visibility and country brand equity with the FernMark in over 50 countries around the world. And we know in China in particular, government association and accreditation carries a lot of weight, and we've had exactly the same feedback from current licensees. The third benefit to support trust and credibility is authenticity. In a world where premium brands are attracting premium prices, such brands become more susceptible to being copied or even counterfeit. So being able to have a mark that demonstrates it's a legitimate product of New Zealand can help give you that competitive edge. And interestingly, we're noticing that more in-market distributors are asking our exporters to carry the FernMark as a way to minimize any risk of proving authentication, and at the same time offer the ability to verify that a product is legitimately of New Zealand. And as a side, as a registered trademark, the FernMark also offers a level of IP protection in 23 countries worldwide, plus worldwide copyright. So just quickly, if you do join the program, each licensee has their own profile page, which provides an overview of the business, a link to your website, together with a list of licensed products that indicates whether your product is made, grown, or designed in New Zealand, assuming all wines are made and grown here. We have the ability to share by our own owned channels, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and WeChat, and all these web pages sit within a government domain address, another reason for offering credibility and authenticity. Quickly, in terms of the eligibility criteria, there are three things. You must have a GST registered business and being compliant with all New Zealand laws and have a connection to New Zealand in terms of ownership, governance, and full-time employees. Each successful application is issued with their own unique license number together with your own logo assets, which I said you can use on packaging, marketing collateral, business cards, whatever you want. The URL together with the license number sits under the FernMark as a unique identifier. And as I said, can be used on social media and WeChat channels as well. We currently have over 1 billion products carrying the FernMark on the world stage, and over 280 businesses are promoting this story, with major brands such as Methford, Samford, Lewis Road Creamery carrying the FernMark. Not surprisingly, 60% of licensees fall within food and beverage, and 20% are health products. And interesting, there are other sectors also from manufacturing and services who all see the value and leveraging their connection to New Zealand and the reputation that we currently have. So that's it from me. If you want more information about the program, please visit the website, which you'll find on the screen here, or more than happy to take your inquiries if you want to email me direct, sarahmorgan@newzealandstory.govt.nz.
And obviously you also have the opportunity to ask questions in about 20 minutes in our Q&A session at about 11:45. But I'm now happy to hand the floor over to Alex for the next 20 or 25 minutes.
Excellent.
Alex Jones is a Consumer Strategy Director at One Picture, formerly known as Big Picture Research. For many years, they have been our research and travel partners when conducting perception research in our different markets. And we have been to a few countries together already: Australia, the US, China, Japan, Chile and Mexico, Dubai and Germany, with the UK to follow soon, I believe. Alex, welcome to our webinar. What can you share with us about perception research that is highly relevant to our wine exporters on this webinar today? I'm stopping my presentation so you can take over.
Excellent. I'm, as you can see, slightly less hairy than when I took that original photo, so bear with me. I'm just going to share my screen. Thank you very much for joining us today, and thanks very much to Frauke, Sarah and Charlotte for inviting me and Nathan Farmer, who's also on this call, to talk through what we're seeing is almost like a greatest hits of the perceptions work that we've done in a lot of different global markets. So a bit of a tasting platter, if you will, sort of come down into our wine cellar and understand some of the global insights that we've found from doing this work with New Zealand Story. So before we go deep into it, I'd just like to cover what we try to do when we go into each market. So first of all, what we're looking to do is really deeply understand the existing perceptions of New Zealand from the consumers and businesses within that market. So what we do is we do focus groups with consumers as well as one-on-one interviews with business partners in each of those different markets who have dealt with a New Zealand business before. Secondly, we're exploring reactions and feedback to how we currently articulate our New Zealand story. So we saw some of that awesome collateral that Frauke was sharing before. We often dig deep into that to see if it's resonating in each market, what we could change, what we could do that would be different. And then thirdly, what we're looking to do is just help build leading sector learnings that enable us to better articulate why to consider New Zealand. And you'll see today we've pulled some of the food and beverage learnings that we've got globally, and we've made that specific to wine for this pack. As I go through, if there are any questions, feel free to put them into the Q&A as well. All the things that we're trying to do here really build forward into the goal of ensuring that New Zealand is famous for more than just its natural beauty. So where do we start? We look to understand your consumer or your customer and their world first. So this slide's a little bit heavy, so we'll just start off with giving you a brief understanding of how big this perception research has been. So far, as you can see, we've done this in 8 different markets, all of which are very, very different. So why I said that this was almost like the greatest hits, we've got big packs on the New Zealand Story website, as Frauke said, that I really encourage you to go look at. So what we've got here is just some of the key nutshell insights that came out from each market. And I'm just going to dive into 2 here because we go into the rest in a little bit more detail further down the pack. But we've got a whole lot of different challenges as New Zealand. It's not just a one-size-fits-all approach to exporting. So if we're looking at a place like Dubai, we're thinking in a nutshell, it's a place that's all about luxury, fast pace, and they have that sense that they've actually got everything at their fingertips. But because of that, they also feel like they lack a little bit of substance and authenticity. So the implication for us there is that we can actually start to reframe luxury and start to bring in some of the premiumness of sustainability and naturalness and purity, and we can actually leverage our strength there. As opposed to a place like Chile, where they do feel really self-sufficient, they're fierce and nationalistic. It's a great gateway to Latin America, but they actually worry that they're failing to create new things for the world. Our implication there is that because we're so geographically similar to them, it's actually a really challenging market, especially for wine when they are so strong. So the opportunity there is to think about how can we actually sell our thinking to them, our problem solving, how can we take some of the expertise we've got in a market like wine and actually export that as well as our product to a place like Chile. So if we're thinking about New Zealand as a whole, whenever we go into each of these markets, we always hear 2 things straight away. The first thing is that it's next to Australia. So talking to Charlotte last week, I heard this is quite similar with how Sav actually got famous in the 80s. Through the rise of Australian wine. So we're often seen as someone who's very close to Australia, and therefore they think that we must be quite similar to them. So it does keep us away from having a distinct identity, which can be a challenge, but is also a benefit because they know of us in the first place. And secondly, you won't believe how much legs The Lord of the Rings has. Every time I go into a new market, I think, surely they won't be talking about Lord of the Rings now. It's 10 years later. But every single time it comes up really strongly. So that's an awesome opportunity there, because it talks about our landscapes and paint a picture of this big epic world. But it also talks about the fact that people are scarce, which can be a benefit and a drawback. Interestingly enough, when we're thinking about that, it's often about the actual film making experience more than it is about our filmmaking expertise. And that's a theme that runs through the whole pack. Whereas we're often known for our natural beauty, but we need to be known more about our thinking. So we need to actually work together to tell a story that goes beyond this and starts to build a bit of equity for us. So when we go into each market, we ask each different area of consumers what they think about us in terms of their head, and then how they think about us in terms of their heart. And each market is at a different level of understanding, but really generally, everybody knows about our landscapes, what we grow and what we produce, which is a great opportunity for wine. Secondly, if they know a little bit more about us, there's this respect for who we are as a people, and they start to think about our integrity and our strength in business dealings. And for those who work really closely with us already, they do start to see us as ingenious, which is where the rubber starts to meet the road in terms of those really interesting business conversations we can start having. So a small but smart country who can do a lot with a little. We do have a lot of shared challenges that do risk holding us back. So attributes, so on the head side, we're seen as quite far away, a little bit small and a little bit expensive. So when we are actually talking to suppliers or different people in market, we need to remember that we need to make ourselves start to feel close. We need to give confidence that we can actually provide what they need. And then we can actually talk about why we're creating more value, because what we have is rare and precious. On the right-hand side, some of the virtues that we find often come up is that we're a bit too traditional, we're a bit too rugged, and that we can turn up slightly casual. So we just need to make sure that when we turn up to anything in these markets initially, we need to have everything prepared, we need to be looking professional, we need to start to talk about our innovation and our unique thinking, and that really starts to bring us out there. So what makes us attractive, which is our natural beauty and our ruggedness, can actually be what limits us on this world scale, this world stage as well. And what we've learned throughout the process around how to tell your New Zealand story is, first of all, don't be afraid to be bold. So we are known for our creativity as a nation, doing a lot with a little, but we can't be scared of actually going bold, going loud, going bright. What are the energetic ways that we can bring a message to the market? What are the different ways that we can bring a pop of colour or a bit of energy that draws away from that real traditional back to nature approach that we can sometimes lean on a bit too strongly? Secondly is don't miss the ingenuity. So New Zealand as a country has created some amazing innovations, especially in wine with the screw top. How can we actually tell that story a little bit more and make sure that we're exploring the different ways in which we've solved a problem with what we've got in front of us? Thirdly, show the value added product. And that comes really strongly in terms of the fact that we need to move away from this trader mindset out of commodities into the fact that we've got the expertise and the thinking to actually turn what is an amazing raw product into something that's truly worthwhile out the back end. And fourthly, which is quite important when we're thinking about the ingenuity point, is to make sure that we're telling a story that's in unison with nature. So the consumers that we speak with really value the natural environment of New Zealand, and they don't want to see that squandered or ruined in any way. So whenever we are talking about the innovative stuff that we're doing, we need to make sure that's in unison with the things around it. Like we showed there in the video with the robot within the kiwi fruit orchard, as well as some of the sort of more sustainable energy practices that we have in place. So as a whole, our country story just needs to shift if we want to increase our relevance to this global market. So it's a move from just talking about the place to the next step, talking about our people, and lastly, our thinking. So a move away from being small and far away towards a country with the smarts and confidence in its gift to the world. So as Frauke has already gone through, kaitiakitanga, integrity and ingenuity are absolutely the way that we need to shift this story forward to have more relevance on this global scale. So what we've done is we've dug into the vaults a little bit and just tried to understand what we've found at a global level when it comes to wine. And what we've done is we've picked on 4 different markets. So the first one being Germany. That's because as a country, they consume 25 litres of wine per person per year, which is huge, but we aren't really strongly represented in the market at the moment. So we are steadily growing, sort of 25% growth over the last 5 years, but there's a lot more opportunity there. Secondly, Australia, where it's the third biggest market. 10% or more than 10% of all the wine consumed in Australia is from New Zealand. But how can we actually make sure that continues to grow, or that we maintain that volume there? Thirdly, China, it's a massive market, as we all know. Our exports totaling $37.4 million, but how can we actually leverage that slightly more? And fourthly is the US. They're our biggest market, especially for Sauv Blanc, but how can we actually start to get them to look at our other varietals that we have under our belt? So another complex slide, but once again, this is the greatest hits. These are the interesting little bits and pieces that we've found throughout all these packs. And I do say that if there's any specific market that you're really interested in, go and read through the deck. They're quite easy reading. They look great. They're really digestible. So if you see something you like here, go onto the New Zealand Story website and have a look. So if we're thinking about Germany as a whole, the consumers there that we talked about, we're actually seeing New Zealand wine as an increasingly adventurous wine choice. We just need to make sure it's in the right channel, aligned with the right people. So some of the key insights that came out here, we need to actually be sure that we're aligned with a distributor or a retailer, and that we need to target small and specifically, because in Germany, if you go in quickly and you go in the wrong market, that's easily seen as a risk, or it's easily seen that you are somebody who hasn't gone through the right channel, and it can be hard to then get that opportunity again. So it's really key that you actually go in and pick a retailer that is in your market. So if you're looking to sell to restaurants, make sure you've got an expert in providing wine to restaurants. Secondly, in Australia, they're absolutely aware of our success, but not our expertise or why they should pay a premium. So this is all about moving the story away from how we've got really great produce and a really good raw ingredient to actually, where does our expertise come in? Why is the profile of our wine so different to what they can get in Australia? And where is our expertise? Where does that come in to take us past agriculture and growing into actually producing and creating the best wine in the world? Thirdly, when it came to China, so we have an inherent strength in our environmental story, but the pace of change over there means that this might not be valid forever. So we need to make sure we're doubling down on that. How can we bring the consumer closer to the vineyard? How can we show our processes and show that we're actually providing some of the most fresh wine to the Chinese market, for instance? How are we being innovative? How can we demonstrate that we can actually provide the scale that is required, not just for China, but let alone, sort of for smaller cities within China, let alone for China itself. And fourthly, for the US, they do also have a more eco-aware buyer, even more so than China, but they're actually open to paying a premium for the strong sustainability story. So we need to make sure that we're really dialing up the story there in terms of why the way that we farm is good for the world, what we're doing that's different, and how we actually set ourselves apart from some of the producers that might be around them. Specifically for each market, we've got 4 key takeaways. So firstly, for Germany, as I was saying, we've only got one opportunity. Getting it wrong isn't forgotten quickly or easily, so ensuring you've got a person on the inside to steer you in the right direction is absolutely key. They also love to hear about the process, any data that you've got. Really keen on understanding the little nitty-gritty bits, so make sure that you've got that there to tell a compelling story. So the way into Germany is start small, do your homework, and find the key contact in your niche. For Australia, we need to remember that New Zealand's not a dirty word. So we need to talk about the fact we measure up to their standards, but we're actually different. So we're adding something different to their repertoire. They are actually starting to envy our forward thinking, and that's something that we're hearing more now than when we did this original piece of research. But we need to not be afraid to actually focus on our people and the way that we do things. So don't talk about better so much, actually show difference in how we measure up to them. For China, we need to remember that there's absolutely not one China, and that we can't have a trader mindset. So we need to actually show the value and why it's right for each target in China. So each city is absolutely unique, and we need to remember that. After that, embrace their digital world. We'll get left behind. So however that looks in the wine sector, I'm not too sure, but absolutely making sure that we're tapped into that digital consumer in the Chinese market is key. also be available. So there's a view that New Zealand's weekend starts on Friday lunchtime. So there's a little bit of that comes in through the casual piece, as well as feeling slightly far away or uncontactable. So that's a key challenge there. So the way in is leveraging that pure environment, as I was talking about, and making sure that we're talking to those high standards of quality that we do have. Finally, for the US, it's a market that can afford to pay for the quality. So make sure that we talk to that and give them a reason why it's better. There's also a lot of the time a perception that New Zealand companies are a little bit sort of fly by night, and they don't always have the capability to measure up to what we have sold in. So we need to make sure that we're getting recognition from our success. So wine awards in relevant places are actually really key in the US. We need to actually have a more aggressive approach in conveying what's in it for them. So they do see us as being slightly too humble, and they want to know straight up exactly what's going on and exactly what's in it for them. So we need to be slightly more assertive in our first sell compared to other markets around the world. So we need to make sure that we're not just another product, making sure we're delivering uniqueness that nobody can match. And last but not least, there are 6 general business learnings that we hear from every single country that we go into when they're thinking and talking about dealing with New Zealand. First of all, which is a great opportunity for us, is New Zealand comes with this implicit trust when dealing with offshore buyers. We've got a really positive reputation for saying, for doing what we say we will, that we're hardworking and we're responsible. So when a New Zealander turns up, they make a deal, we're well known for delivering to that and making sure that everything that we've promised actually gets delivered. Secondly, which is a bit of a surprise sometimes, is that Māori culture and language is really valued. So in a lot of the markets that we go into, a lot is known about Māori and the Indigenous culture of New Zealand, and that's something that we should be talking to. It's one of the things that make us unique, past having our beautiful landscapes and pure environments that can be replicated elsewhere in the world. What we have that's unique to us is Māori culture and the history that that gives us as a young country. Thirdly, we need to ensure that we're doing our homework. So we often fail to lay the groundwork, which comes in with this casual piece. So we need to make sure that we're turning up to these first initial pitch meetings with all of our homework done, that we know exactly what we're pitching, why it's good for that person or that company, and what we can bring them that's unique and different. Fourthly, that our uniqueness is actually under threat. So just saying you're from New Zealand isn't good enough anymore. We actually need to prove why being from New Zealand is better, how we're leveraging that purity and that naturalness, and what we're doing to sort of make the most of that. Fifthly, which is extremely relevant at the moment, given our response to COVID, is the virtues of Brand New Zealand can actually accelerate business conversations. We're being lauded on the global stage at the moment for being responsible and delivering to a really effective sort of control of COVID-19. So we need to be talking about how those virtues like ingenuousness, kaitiakitanga, all those sort of things actually resonate within our own companies. And then sixthly, consumers are actually looking for the experience. So we need to show them that there is that connection with the people who are catching, growing, or making what they buy. And we can blend that in with that approach to purity and naturalness that I was talking about before. So that's a very quick summary, our greatest hits of the different insights and the different perceptions research that we've done. I'm open to questions. I'm also contactable. I'm sure Frauke can share my details after this also. But I'll pass it back over to Sarah.
Actually, to me.
Oh, to Frauke, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. This was a really great recap of what perception research is and how we use it to create resources. I hope it has given you, as exporters of New Zealand wine to the world, some inspiration to reimagine and position yourself in a way, in a different way when communicating. We now have about 15 minutes left to answer some of your questions that have been coming through. And I would like to also welcome Nathan Farmer now, who is the lead researcher for most of our perception research work, onto the panel to help answer those questions. Alex, if you want to stop screen share, then everyone can see our faces.
Great.
Thank you. So I know there's been one question coming in from Misha Wilkinson. Sarah, do you want to say what that question was? And you are the perfect person to answer that.
Yeah. Thanks, Misha. So Misha is asking how many New Zealand wineries are already registered onto the FernMark license program. Great question, because I know it's one that Charlotte often asks me. Currently, there are only 4. And one of those is Kono and Orovida, Smith and Seth. I always get that wrong. And I can appreciate one maybe a historic reason is this all about the packaging and real estate on labels. So I think what became obvious to us when we first launched the program, it was seen as very much a packaging thing. But what I'm hearing now from many licensees, it's a great way or certification to have when having those conversations with distributors and buyers as well. So don't think it's just limited to just packaging. If you want to carry it on your website, link it on your e-commerce, many of our licensees actually upload their certificate of recognition onto their e-commerce websites as well and use the logo along their listings on, say, an Alibaba listing or your own Taobao sites. So yeah, as I mentioned in the program, it's becoming more of a request from some key distributors as well as how can I legitimately demonstrate that you are a genuine business and you authenticate your product. So currently, yes, there are limited wine growers, but we're looking forward to welcoming some more.
Thank you, Sarah. It's always a shame that we can't unmute everyone on the call, but the interference would be huge.
I think Charlotte wanted to add something.
Yeah,
I just want to make a point. After my 5 years selling New Zealand wine, representing New Zealand winery in China, I think it's especially relevant in that market where the government imprimatur, as you said, is just so important. That tick of quality, and it really can help get you ahead when sometimes you're speaking to distributors and partners who have never come across New Zealand wine before. So to know that they've got that tick of approval can really help advance those conversations and get your foot in the door.
Awesome, thank you. Now, I don't think we have any other questions, Frauke. Everyone's been very quiet. Obviously, Alex did too good a job.
Yeah, if my sound quality is okay now, I just wanted to continue what I began at the beginning as to why we at Wine Growers view this as such an important session to hold today. And thank you so much for that session, Alex and Nathan. The insights, although you call it the greatest hits, there's a lot in there. And I know that you said, oh, this wasn't specifically done for wine, but I just think as I'm listening to you, and this is the second time I've listened to it, there's a lot of takeaways there, I believe, for our members. So yeah, huge thanks for that, because our role at Wine Growers is, we're here to help ensure that New Zealand wine is spoke about more frequently by press, by trade, by consumers, and lifting the bar on how we tell our distinctive New Zealand story. It's more important than ever before. It's competitive out there post-COVID. There's webinars like this happening left, right and centre everywhere. And so when we tell our story, it's got to be striking, and this can be very, very helpful for that formation. So thank you.
No worries.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Thanks.
Anything else to add to the perception research, Nathan, who has been the hero on the ground for most of our work?
No, look, I think, obviously we've trawled through those packs. Probably the main point is that we've just picked off 4 markets that we thought would be of interest to members. That there are also insights within specific country packs as well. So, if there is a market that is of interest because you may happen to have a potential trade relationship in one of those markets, then definitely pull it off the shelf. Alex and I are also here, so more than happy to take a phone call as well to cover off any questions that you might have. And probably the only other bit with this as well is obviously we're based here in New Zealand, which has been great. We've been able to sort of be on the ground and almost translate these findings into user-friendly ways for our exporters, but we've also worked up all of these insights within market partners as well. So they're kind of the findings are really sort of validated by people who live in that market, who work in that market, you know, essentially, you know, doing what we do here but over there.
Yeah, thank you. There is no more questions at the moment. I'm just going to share the end slide for you again.
There was just one question, Frauke, but I can quickly cover that. I've had two questions about the pricing of the FernMark program. All the details are on the website, but they vary between $750 a year to $5,000 a year. That's based on the annual revenue of the company who applies.
I've just put the end slide up again for you to take the QR code if you are curious about the perception research studies. They are all on the toolkit, and that QR code will take you straight there. And I know you all have Zoom fatigue, so we're going to finish it here unless there's any more questions coming through now. And I thank you very much for joining this webinar, and please get in touch with us or One Picture for further questions, or of course also you can reach Charlotte anytime.
Yeah, well, huge thanks from me also, and to the One Picture team for so generously sharing these insights with you. In the wine industry, we always eager for more information like this, so thank you so much for that today.